legislative session, and so that was how this event was born. My name is Kenneth Pratt again, and I'm the chair-elect of Leadership Tallahassee. I also serve on the chamber board, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here today. I'd like to take a moment, first of all, to say that Leadership Tallahassee is recruiting for our next class. And so if you are interested in Leadership Tallahassee, you can see any of the LT grads here, and I know there are several of them here. Let me just have you all wave your hands. If you're a graduate of Leadership Tallahassee, just wave your hand. A lot of folks in this room you can see. So talk to any of them about Leadership Tallahassee. Go to our website, leadershiptallahassee.com, and find out more about the program. We've got a program preview party coming up this week. Would love to talk more about what's happening. Second of all, wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the hot topics this year, and also hear from some of our key stakeholders. The first one we're going to have is from our presenting sponsor, Herbie Thiel from Sachs Media Group is going to come and give us an overview of what you all need to know. He's also, we're also going to have some other reflections later on, but at this time I'd like to bring on Herbie. Let's welcome him.
Good morning, everyone. First, I'm going to play a short video just to kind of recap. It's something we do at Sachs. It's a little animated video. We seem to find out that the animated videos do really well and kind of help understand exactly what happened during session. And then I'm going to get into a quick PowerPoint. I'll make it very short of kind of what happened, the roller coaster of session, in essence, of why it went from 3,250 bills filed to only 6% actually passing. Dana, if you want to play the video.
The 2018 Florida legislative session got off to a fast start in January, but more bills than usual died in the process. Over 3,200 bills were filed, but just 200 made it through both chambers, the lowest number in more than 15 years. The bills that did pass range from making daylight saving time year-round, to making it illegal for anyone under 17 to marry, to limiting opioid prescriptions, to making cracker cattle the official state bovine. It was a good year for taxpayers, with lawmakers passing 2 statewide sales tax holidays and cutting taxes on commercial rent and aviation fuel. Overall, tax cuts total $170 million. Legislators finally agreed on an $88.7 billion budget that includes more money for addiction treatment, Bright Futures scholarships, environmentally sensitive lands, and a new program that lets bullied kids switch schools. When this session began, it looked like Florida's recovery from Irma and future hurricanes would be the top priority. But on February 14th, the tragic shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School changed everything. Other issues were pushed aside as school safety, mental health, and gun control issues took center stage. The result? A $400 million school safety package that passed with hard-won support from both political parties. Now, attention swings to the fall elections, with a high-profile U.S. Senate race, crowded races for governor and all 4 cabinet seats, and more than 140 state legislative seats up for grabs. With the historic 20-year review of Florida's Constitution underway, voters will weigh in on numerous constitutional amendments, including giving felons back their voting rights, increasing the homestead property tax exemption, and making it harder to expand casino gambling. And that's only the beginning. Buckle up, Florida. You won't want to miss a moment.
So just a brief overview of everything, and let me just kind of get started at the beginning. Obviously, it was going to be a weird session kind of coming in. When I say weird, it was you had the CRC, which is the Constitutional Revision Commission. It only happens every 20 years. They change our Florida Constitution. You had that coming in. At the same time, you had sort of an unprecedented, feel or environment. You had the governor possibly running for higher office for Congress. You had a speaker that possibly is going to announce that he will be running for governor. So you kind of came into session in the summer of knowing that this committee year was going to be a weird year, kind of a strange year. And then Hurricane Irma happened, which changed the whole feel of everything. I had many clients who told me that they were told that unless you had something that dealt with hurricane issues or an opioid addiction issue, you have no chance basically this year. It was kind of like what happened during the fall, leading into sort of the start of session. It was all hurricane, everything hurricane. How can we help, safety, some more nursing home safety issues, stronghold the state on FDOT type regulations. And as everyone knows, the tragic deaths of Hollywood Hills, it basically changed the environment of what session was going to be. Unfortunately, the next unfortunate event then happened where we had a couple of sex scandals that hit us and hit our appropriations or our budget chair, who resigned. Senator Latvala and Senator Jeff Clemens both left office. Kind of again, this is about December, January, and it changed session kind of again. It changed the atmosphere a little bit. It was why I kind of said in the beginning, it was like a roller coaster. It was a roller coaster of emotions basically this year, and a roller coaster of different things that took top priority. Then the tragic event on February 14th, the Parkland shooting, which absolutely, I say unprecedented, but we had on February 14th, we were supposed to be done session 3 weeks later, and we had to do something for school safety. They got it done. And I think it was amazing what they did to do something that was, with gun control, school safety, some touchy issues, and they were able to get something that was passed that I feel helped both and add some more money into some of the mental health programs, which I also think is very important for what this session happened. I'll go ahead and kind of just hit some of the highlights, I believe, that some of the main things that were passed. And then I'm happy to take questions after the breakfast. I know we're going to have a couple other speakers who can help answer some of the other questions you all may have too, but I'll just hit some of the highlights. Again, kind of reiterating, 3,250 bills, 6% passed. 15 years since that has happened. So a very small amount of bills passed. Some of the hot topics, again, reiterating hurricanes, gun safety, education, healthcare, kind of part of that healthcare, mental health care. Also, $130 million towards nursing homes. Probably I think it's the most they've ever received in a long time. And I'll get in a little quickly into the generator rule that has now passed, and I'll get into a couple of the other things in the gun safety. The other bill that failed, that all of us who live in Tallahassee is that the bill to move the capital to Orlando, in essence, failed again. So we will continue to be the capital city of Florida. Some of the things that I want to just highlight that did pass, obviously the gun safety. We hit a limitation on age, the waiting period, almost like a handgun for all rifles and shotguns. Also, they banned the sale of bump stocks, which I know many of you all saw and read a lot of that. They put $69 million in funding for school health, mental health programs, and $98 million in for school safety. Just like I said, an unprecedented type thing that they did in almost 3 weeks, and they did a great job. I know we have a couple of the legislators here today, and they did a great job of getting this done and getting it done quickly. Some of the other ones that I think they're actually really interesting is the nation's first school voucher program for children who are bullied. So it's basically the legislators addressed many of the top education priorities in their House Bill 7055, but one of them included a tax-funded scholarship paid for by the Hope Scholarship is what they call it. So in essence, if a child is bullied, they can move to another school on a scholarship and they come out of a public school into a private school even. So it was kind of an unprecedented first ever voucher done in the nation of its kind. And part of that package also, which I think was important because I was one of them, is the Bright Futures. They made Bright Futures now permanent. They put $121 million, I believe is what the total number was, to make it for 100,000 of those students to now still continue the Bright Futures from 75 to 100%. It got passed again this year. I was a Bright Futures student myself, so I think it was very important. It was also, one of the things that was unique too is they brought into summer schools as well. So now the Bright Futures will cover summer schools. So a lot of those students who are trying to get through quickly or want to take slower classes, they can now also use it in the summers. The other thing that I think was unique about this year, and now Congressman Rubio has now filed a bill called the Sunshine State Act, is the daylight savings time. So they passed a bill for daylight savings time to be permanent in the state of Florida. He also, Congressman Rubio actually filed the same type bill for the entire nation. He's kind of going two ways on this. He's going to try to pass it for the whole entire nation to start with. If he's not able to do that, he wants to try to just pass it for Florida. It's a unique situation. Some people love it, some people hate it, but I guess we'll see sort of what happens. The other big issue that got that hit from the beginning was the opioid crisis. And they did get a bill passed, and it was signed yesterday by the governor. It limits the amount of days you get prescription drugs. Also, it has a lot of stuff for treatment, a lot of funding for the treatment on prescription opioid abuse. The other main thing that I just want to hit was as you guys saw, the generator rule, the nursing home. So obviously the tragic deaths down in Hollywood Hills, and it kind of changed. It started out changing kind of the atmosphere of session at that point. They now have an official rule that is in that all nursing homes have also agreed to comply with, to have a generator in every nursing home in the state of Florida to be able to power the nursing home for up to 72 hours. That was kind of the negotiation between the governor's office and the nursing homes. And it's great. It was something that was probably needed anyways, that unfortunately these tragic deaths kind of shine a light on, and it passed. The other one that also that was I think was a little different, but also really good, is they now brought workers' comp in for first responders for PTSD. Again, something that hasn't been addressed before and was addressed, and I was in the committee rooms. It got a lot of people in there, a lot of firefighters and such, that definitely thought this bill was much needed, and it finally got addressed and it passed. Some of the things that, and I won't go on the negative, but some of the things that did not pass. And a lot of it was a little bit because of the Parkland shooting. It kind of changed up what had to take priority right then. But PIP reform did not pass. Personal injury protection, they were trying to bring it into a mandatory BI. It did not. It failed. The AOB did not pass. It failed. A fracking ban, it did not pass. Red light cameras, unfortunately, also did not pass. It was another one that kind of died on the vine. There's also a couple, we were kind of mentioning in the video, there are a couple of issues that didn't pass but will be addressed during the CRC that will be on the ballot. For example, the greyhounds, the use of steroids for greyhounds, that will be on the ballot in November. So some of the things that weren't addressed, though, will be addressed come November, and you all will be able to vote on it. And it just was, like I said, those are just some of the highlights. It was just an interesting year, a roller coaster year. You had some unfortunate events that caused it to be a year that was a little different than I remember, and most people who have done it a long time really remember. So with that, I think I'll bring back Kenneth.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, guys.
It's an excellent overview of kind of what happened. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a flavor of what happened. He really just hit the high notes. It was indeed very, very flavorful. The chamber could not do this without the help of our sponsors, and I want to recognize some of those sponsors at this time. I'd like to thank, first of all, our presenting sponsor and bring a representative from our presenting sponsor to speak to you from Sachs Media Group, and that's Michelle Ubin. Let's welcome Michelle now.
Well, I don't need to hold up the program. I just want to say how pleased we are to sponsor this event, how proud we are of the Tallahassee Chamber and its advocacy for the interests of the business community. I want to thank our local legislative delegation that represents us so ably. And as Herbie said, it was a very interesting session. We are still sorting through the budget to see how our local communities fared. But the fact that the state capital is still Tallahassee is probably the best indicator that it was a good session for Tallahassee. So thank you very much for being here this morning.
Thank you, Michelle. Now I want to bring up another one of our key sponsors, Claudia Devant, who's also on the chamber board as well, and she's going to give you a little bit of a highlight of her industry and also what she does at Adams Street's Advocates. Claudia.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, it was a very early start for all of us, so thank you for being here. And having been a lobbyist in Tallahassee since the year 2000, I can honestly say this is one of the most challenging and hate to use the word interesting session I've ever been in. And since I'm still suffering from after-session depression, I will keep this very short. I really, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank Senator Montford and Representative Osley for doing an outstanding job in what Herbie has already described as a very challenging environment. We couldn't survive this without you guys, and we really thank you for your service and your commitment. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to everybody else who wants to talk a little bit more. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Claudia. At this time, I also want to recognize our gold sponsors from AARP, Leslie Spencer from LT31. Leslie, are you here? Wave your hand. And we have from AT&T, Mary Rose Sirianni, also a graduate of LT31. I saw Mary Ann earlier. There she is. Comcast, Stephanie Bowden. Stephanie, wave your hand. Also, Culpeper Construction, Chris Sumner. See Chris here? There he is. And then my association, I want to thank them, the folks that I work with every day. Florida Bankers Association is also here. So thanks to all those folks for their generous support of this event. Unfortunately, our speaker could not be here today. We had anticipated having her to really delve into what things were like during the session. But however, we do have our legislative delegation, or a couple of our members from our legislative delegation here, who are going to talk to us. So I want to bring them up: Senator Bill Montford and Representative Lorraine Osley. Let's give them a round of applause. And I think the way we're going to proceed here is maybe to perhaps give Senator Montford an opportunity first to kind of give some overall remarks, and then Representative Osley, and then we'll just take some questions from the floor if you all would like. So come up with some great questions for these folks about what happened in the legislative session, but let's give them a chance to give some welcoming remarks.
Good morning, and we want y'all to know that the two of us, unlike most politicians, especially those in the room, Gil and others, Curtis, our true stories are really true. So when we tell you things, you can count on it. First of all, so let's tell the truth. We were planning on doing this all along. We said Marion Johnson was coming just so y'all would show up. If we said we were speaking, you may not show up. So lock the doors back there. Don't let anybody out. We have a captive audience. But Herb, that was where'd he go? That was a very good summary. There he is. He's leaving already. My God. Don't leave. You know, he was a great runner, right? At Childs, you won all kind of awards at Childs, right? See what a memory I have? It's good. I used to run with him. I trained him, long distance running. Let's get to the meat of the issue. What's really important to all of you, and that's the daylight savings times issue. Let me tell you again the truth, okay? Senator brought that up. Stubbe, Senator Stubbe, he was a little crazy, but way he got this, he said he went to his barber, and his barber said, "I don't like changing my clocks back and forth." Now that's the way good bills start, isn't it? All right. And when he told me that, I said, "Well, my barber said just the opposite. He likes changing his clocks back and forward." But the truth is, too, now, you think about this for a minute, over across the river, Central Time, right? And I've got 10 counties on this side. I've got, and one over there. However, all the counties over there want to stay like they were. So they reminded me of a story, and I'm not making this up. When we grew up, I grew up in Bluntstown, and our parents would tell us, in the Bible, when Cain killed Abel, he fled to the hills in the east. And that's Tallahassee. And I'm serious. And Cain's descendants are still in Tallahassee, and they're mean as hell. So be careful when you go over there. So they reminded me, oh, there are a lot of people, that the Garden of Eden, is where Torrey State Park is. They reminded us that a lot of evil comes out of Tallahassee, especially when you got South Florida people invading Tallahassee. So y'all said you're messing up when you try to you're trying to mess the Lord's work up, try to get that sun to come up an hour early, so leave it like it is. So we did. We said, leave us alone over here. And so anyway, now it goes to the federal government. So we're going to find out whether Senator Nelson Rubio really understands where the Garden of Eden is and how important it is that they remember the story in the Bible. Now, with that being said, we are glad y'all are here today to hear Loran and I, because we really may not know what we're talking about. We learned a lot, Herb, from what you just said. There are several issues that are important to you, and we know we'll get to some of those in the question. So I think what we'll do is I'm going to sit down here and we'll back and forth a little bit, and we'll talk about some issues that we know are important to you, and then we'll be able to take some questions. And if we don't like your questions, we'll take it and we'll refer it to Ramon and what's his name over there? What's his name? Halsey Bashirs, I think it is. All right, we're on. Loran?
No, you make me follow that. That might work. You just want to sit down? I'm not going to try to follow that stand-up comedy act. But I will say, I think that we really hit the nail on the head when you talked about the session being an emotional roller coaster. I can't quite remember any time that has been, or any decisions that have been so difficult as the last couple weeks of the session. Just looking at the images of the front pages, and really the view from the Capitol with the sea of activists and students brought back these floods of emotion for me that really defined the session for me. Even though there are many, many things that happened, many things that we can't even, but it's almost it clouds your memory of the whole 60 days because of what happened in the last 2 weeks. Those kids have changed the course of our nation. There's no question about that. And I know Senator Mumford actually attended one of the funerals, and I met a lot of the kids as they came through, and watching them on social media and seeing what they're doing now is truly amazing. So that being said, there are we try to sort back through what in addition to the school safety measures, which we can talk about. I think for me the highlight is the $100 million for Florida Forever. I sit on the agriculture committees, and that is something that I think we started. Last year we gave no money to land preservation, and on my side we started with, I think, $8 million. Senator Mumford worked, and I both worked with Senator Bradley, who was who before he became the budget chair, if you remember, he was not the budget chair at the beginning of session, and I actually was in his office to talk to him about how I can support on the House side the Florida Forever. 10 minutes after he was named the budget chair, I had a meeting scheduled with him. I forgot about this until right this minute, to talk, how can I help you? And he said, well, I just found out 10 minutes ago that I'm going to be the Senate budget chair, so I think we're going to be okay with that $100 million. That's the craziness of this session. So he would, he was obviously he's a fellow North Floridian budget chair in a good position to help push forward an issue that's important not only to North Florida but to all of our state, and obviously to the citizens of our state who supported it and put it in the Constitution for us to support those dollars. The hurricane money, very important. Addressing the opioid crisis. The tax package, which you heard about, that's very important. The sales tax holidays, the commercial rent, and the aviation fuel tax, which is important for us here. It became kind of a fight back and forth between the House and the Senate, but I was glad to see the Senate put it back in. It actually became this is an interesting piece of that. This was we fought to put that aviation tax in committee, and it was not. folks, it was controversial, got it in, and then we got to the House floor, and the Republicans stripped it out. And I believe it had to do with Delta and NRA. It was right when Delta had done this NRA, severed their ties with NRA. Georgia, the day before, had done the same thing. So all of a sudden, here we are on the House floor, stripping out this important item for Tallahassee that leadership had fought hard to get in. Then they stripped it out for political reasons. Thankfully, the Senate prevailed, put it back in, and it came back over, and it passed through. But that's the kind of silly games that I think Senator Monfort will probably pick up on in a minute. Two things I will just say. I was able to pass, let's see, how many bills? 3250, 6% passed both chambers. I'm proud to say 2 of those were mine. As a freshman Democrat, one is, thank you. And he's been doing this for a long time, and he gets bills passed all the time, but I feel really good. One of them is, will help hearing impaired drivers who, in the event of a traffic stop, if their license, not their license, their car tag, when the police officer runs their car tag, it will inform him or her that this is a hearing impaired driver. In the event of noncompliance, there was a driver that was shot and killed in North Carolina. I had a police officer with a hearing impaired son who came to me and asked me if I could help do something about this, and we immediately got to work with the DMV and got it passed in both houses, and I'm hoping the governor will sign it. The other is the Do Not Call registry. Worked with Senator Young on that. If you are on the Do Not Call registry, we hope that you will not continue to get these annoying calls. So two bills that passed and are waiting signature. The other thing that we worked on together, which I'm very proud did not, it survived the veto pen, is $1 million for Second Harvest here in Leon County, so that they will be able to purchase the building that they are in and be able to continue providing very important service to our folks here, not just in Leon County, but across the Big Bend. So with that, I will, let's just open it up for questions.
All right, we got a question.
Remove the preemption that regulates cities from in any way regulating guns. Will you do that next session if you're still there?
You got the question, Senator?
I didn't understand that question. I
Well,
got it. I'm just kidding. I believe in local control. I believe in home rule. I do not believe that we in Tallahassee should usurp the local government's ability to do to pass those of what's best for your community. You probably know there's a lot of difference between Bristol and Tallahassee and Miami. That's why we have local elected officials to make those decisions. Yeah. Now, you want to know if I would file a bill? I don't see why I would not. Okay. Now, but let's talk about local control. There were several bills this year that put quite frankly, local control in the bullseye. But I think, with no disrespect to our former speaker, his philosophy was very simple, and that was the founding fathers they gave the states the ability to make the decisions that the federal government didn't want. He believes that the state then has a right to dictate what authority and powers that local governments have, and that's his deep belief. And he believed that we in the state legislature could decide what you could and could not do. That's his deep-seated philosophy. I disagree with that. I think just the opposite. That's why we have local government to make those kinds of decisions. That fair enough? Let me, if I may, well, I got a captive audience. I want to touch on 2 or 3 things, if I may, just in general. First of all, let me say, I have 11 counties, stretching from Calhoun and Gulf to Taylor and Hamilton. So I've got a large area of rural counties. 3 of us in the Senate have 35 rural counties. So there's not a lot of representation, quite frankly, for rural counties. And our rural counties are facing a crisis. regardless of what it might be. It could be healthcare or education or infrastructure. Rural counties are hurting, and it's because of this, the tax structure. Liberty County next door, one mill raises a little over $300,000. One mill here raises $16 million, and it's just a loaf of bread there costs just as much as it does here. But the fact is, these local governments in rural counties have to have some kind of state assistance, whether it's building schools or whether or not it's water projects and so on, especially in terms of health care as well. The other issue from a 50,000-foot level, we can't forget our state employees. Once again, our state employees have gone without a pay raise. Now, what we're doing, which I think is good in some sense, but it's bad in another, we are picking and choosing winners, if you will. We gave significant, some would consider to be significant pay raises to select state employees, particularly law enforcement. But the rank and file state employees who make this government work, and it works well, really have not had but one real pay raise in the last 10 years. And I say to my colleagues in the Senate, you're always saying government need to be run like a business. Well, let's run government like a business. We don't treat the employees the way we've treated government employees, state employees, the way good business people treat their employees. We simply don't do that. And that seems to have fallen one more time in the shadows. So we've got to continue to raise that issue. Another issue I want to keep in front of you is the issue of our children and their health care. We have 1 million people in Florida without health care, half of whom are children. They're within walking distance of where we are right now. Children went to school this morning hungry and in need of good medical care, and that's a shame. We should not let that happen. We're in Taylor County, we're pulling teeth, permanent teeth, from 12-year-old children, and it's simply because they cannot get good health care. They can't afford it. A survey was done in Franklin County a couple of years ago. The #1 request of students, they only have one school, public school, one regular public school, one charter school, but the #1 request of those children, they wanted their own toothbrush. And so we got thousands of toothbrushes delivered there recently, but that's not the way you solve the problem. The way we solve the problem is to do something about access to health care for those people who simply can't access that. So, can we talk about safety?
Let me give Representative Osley an opportunity. Did you want to talk about state employees, or did you have a?
I'll just follow up with that. I mean, obviously, we were on the same page there. The other piece that's concerning to me is that we made some changes to the state group health insurance last year that won't take effect until next year. But I can see continued language in the budget that leads me to believe that it is going to significantly change those health benefits for our state employees. And while I was told over and over again in debate on the floor that the benefits aren't going to change and the premiums aren't going to change and that they're still going to get the same level of benefits, I feel quite confident that the changes they're talking about, they can't happen without changing the level of benefits or the premiums. And I think that's something that we will continue to be very strong watching. I mean, if we're not going to give them pay raises, we need to make sure that the benefits are something that are deserving of our hardworking state employees. So, but again, those are things that we continue to work on because our constituency and many of the people, in this room depend on our state workforce so much.
Is there another question? Please make sure that you say your question loud enough. We're taping this, so we want to make sure that we get it taped as well. Is there another question? Anyone? Don't be shy. These are our local delegation. All right, well, I have a question. So I wanted to actually know a little bit more about the budget. Can you all talk a little bit about items that were either vetoed or taken out that might be local projects for that these folks would be interested in? Or that did make it into the budget and that was signed by the governor?
Again, I'm a little bit different than Loran. I've got 11 counties, and so I've got like 52 projects that were funded. Only 2 were vetoed by the governor, and one of those I would have vetoed myself. So, you always try to put things in there that he can veto, but he missed he missed a mark on one. Apparently, he didn't read that one, or he would have struck that one too. Okay? But anyway, when we look at the budget, if we can talk just for a moment, that's a good segue into the safety issue. When the Broward issue erupted, we know what happened, and they said, everything comes to a halt. The word at first was no member projects. In other words, we'll wipe everything out, which was nobody argued with that. But let me talk about the budget and safety just for a moment.
Sure.
One of the fears I had when we were going through all of the discussion about what we can do for safety for our children, I said what we don't want to happen, which is I'm afraid we did, we're raising the expectations so high that we won't be willing to fund it. In other words, let's take the issue of security on school campuses. I bet you everybody in here, with a few exceptions, might believe that in every school in Florida, every public school, including charter schools, there will be a uniformed security person at every school in the state, because that's what we've said. Now, the fact is, we have not funded that. If there are two pots of money out there. One is for school districts to draw on to hire what we know here as school resource officers. And by the way, if you look at the 67 school districts in Florida, there are 25 or 30 different models of how those resource officers are funded. By the way, in the early 80s, and Curtis will remember this, Leon County was the first county in Florida that had the resource officer program. Sheriff Boone and others are the one that started it here, and there was some pushback because people were saying we don't need anybody with a gun on our campus. What's wrong with this? But anyway, we went through it, and the deal was a 50-50 split, which basically is still in place here today. But across Florida, you'll see different funding mechanisms for school resource officers. What we came up and passed, basically there are three ways to have a security person. One is to have your own law enforcement people on your campus. In other words, your own police department as part of the school system. The second way is a school resource officers program. And then the third thing we came up with this year is what's called the Marshall Plan, which is arming teachers, which, by the way, I'm adamantly opposed to that. I think that's one of the worst ideas we've ever come up with, is arming teachers. That's just, but so what we've done in the budget in funding the security people, we have a pot of money the school district can draw from for resource officers, and another pot of money for the Marshall Plan. Now, some of us knew from the very beginning there's not enough money in this pot, but you can't draw from this one. So I filed an amendment to combine the two, and I said, at least put all the money into one pot. If we're going to, my argument was, why should we force school districts into arming teachers? We don't want to do that. If a school district does not want to arm teachers, why do we forcing them to do it from a financial standpoint? We can't do that. But that amendment failed, and it failed because there was a disagreement with the House leadership on that issue. So as we sit here today, there's two pots of money. The resource officer money will dry up quickly. This pot of money, unless there's a significant change in attitude across Florida, this money will not be used because school districts, the vast majority of the school districts, will not participate in the arming the teachers. I just don't see that happening. So this money will revert back to general fund, and we'll lose it. So we're hopeful that through the Legislative Budget Commission that hopefully they can, I don't know exactly how they can do it legally, but make this money available to school districts for that. The other pot of money is for hardening schools. And one more time, we in Tallahassee came up with the idea that it was actually proposed that every school have one point of entry. And I said, well, let's think about this for a minute. And if you're a principal of a high school that's got 2,000 kids in it, you want to try to bring them all in one door at 7:30 in the morning. I've been there, and that won't work. And not only that, if you look at schools like Leon High School, how can you do that? So we were able to pull them back off the edge for some of this stuff. But from the school hardening point, we're going to be spending millions of dollars on that, which we don't have. And then the other piece of this, and this is critically important to our discussion throughout the state, and that's the issue of mental health. The school superintendents in Florida for 3 years have said their number one concern is mental health, far more than the assessment testing program, far more than anything else. It's mental health. And if you think about it a minute, no matter what happens in society out there, all the ills will show up at the school. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's unemployment or poor health care, it doesn't matter, it's going to show up in the school. School superintendents, teachers, and principals have been saying for years now, we've got a crisis on our hands with mental health, far more than it used to be for whatever reason. The children are coming to school, bringing issues with them like we've never seen before. So we do have money now for, some money will be spent on mental health, but that is such a big issue. Quite frankly, we're trying to get our arms around it. So we've got to be realistic in what we can expect in August on all these issues. But if you stop and think about it a minute, if you started today, I'm not sure we can get enough resource officers hired, trained, and on the job by August. It's going to be quite a challenge. Okay.
And I'll just, the one thing you said reminded me of a conversation that I had with Superintendent Hanna in the middle of all this. I mean, I think one of the things that he was really asking for, if you think about Leon and the one entry point, it's not possible. His plea to me was, any resources you're giving to us, but give us some flexibility. He said, I don't want to have anybody armed in my school, but I would like to be able to hire monitors, he called it a human wall, of people with radios who are at every entrance that know the kids. And I think he already does that to a certain degree, but in these so every school campus, especially our older campuses, are going to be different. Give us the flexibility to be able to do what works best for our campuses. And I'm hoping that as we move forward, even if the law does not allow that now, that as we start to put these things into practice, we can apply that flexibility with the resources and with the ability to do some things that are, would be perfect for those campuses, but maybe not others. So,
Questions? Got a question?
My question is, what can we expect from the incoming leadership, President Galvano, Speaker Oliva, what are their sort of philosophies as it relates to local governments and the other issues that we care about here in Tallahassee and Cook County? What are some of the policy priorities, if you happen to know those things are going to be when they take over leadership next session?
All right, future leadership.
I'll give you the bad news first from my side, because I think that we're going to see a lot of the same with Speaker Oliva. He and Jose Oliva is the incoming speaker, and very much in the mold of Richard Corcoran, a fine man, and he actually did a great job on our side, piecing together the school safety issue and dealing with all of the things that he had to deal with in a very fast and emotional manner. But I do think that you're going to have a lot of the same as far as local government, the education pieces that, we didn't even really talk about, the further expansion of vouchers and money that's being pulled away from traditional public schools. I don't see those things changing a lot in the next 2 years in the House. And I'm hoping that Senator Mumford's going to give us some better news from the Senate side.
Thank you for that softball. We are very optimistic in terms of the leadership that we'll be having for the next couple of years in the Senate. Senator Galvano will be our Senate president. He was in the House for a number of years, like Senator Negron was he's a very fair person. I was his vice chair on the appropriations committee for a couple of years, so I know him very well. We're in the Senate. We're very, very optimistic. I think you will see from the Senate side for sure. You'll see less interference, if you will, with local governments. I don't think he is in the same philosophy as some others are in terms of local government. So we're optimistic under his leadership. Now, and it's only 40 of us in the Senate, 38 today, but the Senate's just a lot different than the House. This year, though, quite frankly, I think the last couple of years the Senate has slipped a little bit in terms of our position. The House was much more aggressive and assertive. The Senate's not like that, and so I think if you went back over the last couple of years, we probably would take a much different position on a lot of issues that affected the legislature as a whole.
I want to pick back up on that because I just want to say Senator Galvano and I served in the House together and worked on children's issues. I believe that he will be a good Senate president, not just for Florida, but he understands our issues here in Leon County, and so I'm hopeful as well on that side. Anyway.
All right, Bart, I see you in the back. LT 20, best class ever.
Quick question. Both y'all talked about the importance of state employees. It seems to be the legislature, has an easy time ignoring them or kind of pushing the ball down the court on state employee issues. Going back to what you said, Lorraine, about state employee benefits and how it might affect the rest of us. The capital health plan people are here. We're in a unique healthcare environment for all of us. 90% of city employees are with capital health plan. 90% of county employees are with capital health plan. And a good number of us were that. And state workers are half of the capital health plan's base of customers. And so I just would encourage both of you to understand, there's something they continue to pushing toward self-insurance for state employees and these larger, higher deductible plans that will have an effect on rates for all of us with our 7-county healthcare provider and the others. So I would just encourage you to continue to monitor and try to keep that system balanced the way it is, because it would have a direct impact on all of us and the rates that we pay if something happens to half of capital health plan's customers.
Who wants to take the first swing at that?
Thank you, Bart, and you're right. There's been a push from the House now for several years to change the way the state employees are those benefits, and to put it mildly, I think anyway, that is the idea is to as one of the House members said, if you give somebody $10 for lunch and you can go buy lunch for $7, you can pocket $3. Well, that makes sense. However, that doesn't work, in my opinion, with insurance. The beauty of insurance, and by the way, capital health plan has been not only good for this area, but it's been ranked as one of the top in the country. And the way we have been able to hold that change off is because of the service and the prices that capital health plan has been able to deliver to the state. If it hadn't been for that, we would have been sunk long ago. It's hard for those who are wanting to push, for whatever reason, push for a change in a system that's working very, very well and very in tops in terms of the cost. I mean, you can't beat the capital health plan when it comes to that. Sounds like an advertisement. But it is in a sense, because theoretically what it is those of you who can go to lunch and buy lunch for $7 and pocket $3, that's fine, because if you look at the health, the insurance piece of that, that's for healthy people. For Lorraine, she can go buy lunch for $7 and pocket $3. For people like me, forget lunch, but I mean, it's, in other words, if we allow the young, good, healthy people to take out if we take them out of the mix, if you will, the prices will increase significantly for those of us who are not as healthy. And that will disrupt the whole system is mine. I'm not an insurance person, but I've got that, I think I've got that figured out. So as long as we continue to stay on the path we're on, I think we can use a little bit of common sense and just leave the system like it is. Because if we ever start messing with that particular benefit, it's going to really have a negative impact, not on the state employees, but the community in general.
Rep. Osley, you want to, anything to add?
Well, as I said earlier, that, you know, we did make some changes that we haven't, they go into effect in 2020, so we're keeping a close eye on the implementation of that. I don't think, we don't really know how that's going to happen, and I think it's really important to keep a close eye, and I think that's what Bart was saying. So.
Yeah. All right, we got time for another question. One other question. Anyone? Come on, I know this group's not shy. All right, well, look, you all want to make any closing comments before we bring up Sue to close this out?
Just thank y'all for having our backs. And, you know, there was a lot that happened, and as we continue to sort through, if you have any questions, our offices are always open. You know where to find us. We appreciate the work that all of you, I appreciate the work that all of you do and the Chamber does for our community. And now we get to go back to work on actual community things for the next couple of months.
And too, I want to thank the Chamber too. Sue, thank you for setting this up the way we did. We've been looking forward to coming and talking to y'all. But the Chamber, y'all have done a great job under Sue's leadership. You know, it's always nice to be able to call somebody and get a straight answer what's going on in this community. So we appreciate that, and like Loran said, we're easy to find. So just everybody else can. So just call us anytime, especially not only if you got a concern, but if you got a good idea, call us because. And by the way, you know, some people say this session wasn't as productive because we didn't pass nearly as many bills. I would suggest to you, I think it's a pretty good session. We passed too many bills. It's amazing how we can come up with 3,000 different bills, and I don't even know where they come up with some of this stuff. But I think in terms of the number of bills we passed, it's pretty doggone good.
Let's thank our local delegation for being here. All right, and now I'll bring up our Chamber President, Sue Dick.
Thank you again. If we can, let's thank again, if we can, the senator and the representative. They are tremendous at what they do, and we know how much they truly love our community. So thank you all. Kenneth, thank you for emceeing this event and the partnership the Chamber has with our affiliate program, Leadership Tallahassee. Appreciate you all coming out. Again, Michelle Ubin and the team, Sachs Media Group, thank you for your sponsorship. Claudia as well, thank you for being so supportive, and our other sponsors that are here that have taken the time to put up some tabletops. Please go by and introduce yourselves. We're very busy at the Chamber of Commerce. We're very pleased that we could host this event. Obviously, we all adjusted this year with the earlier session. One of the questions I think was being floated was the change in session periods with regards to early session moving to January. Our understanding that every even year now will go to January. Is that correct? So again, that does impact a lot of our local businesses, a lot of individuals impacted in the community. But again, we thank you all for coming out. We hope that you'll turn to the Chamber of Commerce if you need anything. Leadership Tallahassee is taking applications for the upcoming year. There's a preview party this week, actually, so please visit our websites to find out more information. And to our partners with the city and the county, we appreciate you taking the time to come out as well. I know there are several local elected officials that took the time to come out, as well as great staff. So thank you all for being here. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.